Hello and welcome to another of my review videos where we will be looking at a set of budget-friendly scope rings. These ones are referred to as the Triton Armada Tactical-Grade 1-inch scope rings. That is a bit of a mouthful. I am going to finish pulling this one apart real quick so we can get a look at all the threads and the hardware. The first thing I noticed was that there are two different size screws. The cap has these smaller screws, whereas the clamp has the screw, same thread pitch, just a slightly different size. Well, if I could grab the right one. Slightly different sized head on that. This one for the base, obviously going to give you a little bit more purchase inside the clamp to prevent any attempts at the screw to mushroom or pull through or damaging the inside on that face where it sits. They are all T15. They use the same small Allen key that comes with rings. I throw those away because I have other tools. I have one somewhere, but you're going to get a set of those L-shaped Allen keys with every pair of rings that you buy. On this one, we're going to start with the base. We're going to take a quick look inside the radius here and see if we see any unusual machining marks, which I do not. And then we're going to go ahead and look in there, if I can get it lined up for you guys right. And we can see that the anodization does not extend to the bottom of the hole. It goes in maybe 3 or 4 threads. And then below that it is the bare aluminum. The same is not true on the base clamp screws. Those appear to go all the way through. That is partially because they drill this extra hole in here that's going to allow that process to migrate all the way to the bottom of the hole. And then while we're looking at the bottom here, we see our one recoil lug that goes all the way to the edge, which I always appreciate. So that's going to butt up against your clamp and keep the clamp from wanting to roll forward a little bit. But as we look at it, we do have maybe one little mark right there, little ding. Other than that, I'm not seeing a whole bunch of defects. There's a little bit of a lip right there that I can feel. The finish looks really good. I'm not seeing any spots except for maybe right there where the finish isn't quite perfect. I do see another little dimple right there. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the way that they look. I appreciate that they've broken all the edges so that there's no sharp edges to either scratch your scope or get caught up on things or just to get dinged itself, because a hard corner is more likely to get dinged up and start losing its finish. So when they round them off a little bit, it just makes them a little bit more durable long term. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I don't see any unusual machining marks on the outside of it. It looks pretty good. It's even in there where they would have had like a end mill cutter in there cutting that out. All right, let's take a quick look at the cap, the outside, and the individual bore holes for the cap screws. Looking good. The inside and the faces of where that's going to come down and potentially touch. Hopefully not. There should be a gap, but they look good. I don't feel any or see any unusual machining marks on there, nor do I see any spots where the anodization has come off prematurely, so that's good. Rub the oil off of there. This is our clamp. There was a little mark right there where it had previously been torqued down against the pick rail on my rifle. Other than that, everything's looking pretty good. Anodization is actually very even across these pieces as well, as far as like color and consistency of the finish, which you do not always see on cheap rings. Sometimes there is a difference because one part might be made on one machine as opposed to the other parts that are made somewhere else, and then you get difference in your finish. Go ahead and look at this one real quick. I'm not feeling any unusual marks in there either. There's a little mark right there. Another one there. But other than that, nothing that is going to affect the actual functional use of it. There's a little spot right there where the anodization was scratched off. Altogether, I am pretty happy with them. And I am going to give you the basic specs real quick now that we've looked at them. Again, Triton Armada Tactical-Grade 1-inch scope ring. We have a 0.95 center height. We have material is 6061 T6 aluminum, which is good. We have an anodized black finish. They did not specify any grade of anodization, just that it is anodized. It uses T15 screws for both the ring cap and the base screw, though like we saw, they are slightly different, so they're not interchangeable. It did come with a spare screw for both the ring and the base. Let's see, they were $16.99 when I bought them here about 2 months ago, so I looked and they are still that price as of August of 2025. And now the manufacturer did not list a weight that I could find, so I have previously measured that, but I will go ahead and show that to you. Get this pulled in here where you can see it. Get everything piled on the scale, including the screws. And we have 2.9 ounces, so pretty light for the pair. About 1.5 ounces each. But with all of that, I'm gonna get this thing set up over here on my fixture and get the scope that I plan on putting in there, which is the Bushnell Legend. And we will see how it holds up to being torqued, and that will wrap this video up. Now I have us set up over here above the fixture so that we can do the installation of this scope and get a look at this and see how it handles the torque. I have currently both of these just a little bit loose so we can see how much play there is in that pick slot, which there is a considerable amount. So for those of you who might be putting this on a scope with a Weaver style base, it may be compatible, but you will have to be concerned about that clamp maybe being a little too chunky, or it could impact the top of your receiver before it gets clamped down properly. Go ahead and get those just snugged up. I could say that after having torqued these once and then reinstalled these, both of those sets of threads were completely smooth. There was no binding or grit of any kind. So next, I'm going to grab my torque driver, get my T15 bit, get this set to the 15 inch-pounds, no, excuse me, 18 inch-pounds. What am I talking about? We're going to do 20 because we're going to start there before we go to the maximum of 30. Thinking about the caps before I get done with the piece that I'm working on. All right, 20 inch-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and hit them with the torque on that first. Snug them down just a little bit. And then come back and give it the torque. There we go. Now in reality, if you're putting this on a 22, you could probably get away with 20 or 25 inch-pounds. But if you're putting this on a centerfire rifle, or especially something with some more recoil, you want to go ahead and do the full 30, just so you don't risk those things walking around a little bit. All right, there's 30 on it. Good to go. All right, all 4 of them took it. Now we're going to break them loose. And I'll pull this one out just to check the threads, make sure we didn't have any transfer of aluminum. It looks completely clean. If you were doing this on an install where you were not intending to remove these rings, I would absolutely advise some blue Loctite just to make sure that they didn't loosen up over time. All right, loose, loose. Get this pushed up against the lug. Get those snugged up. And then we'll give them the torque again. Now ideally I would do those, I would set that to 20 and do it, but I'm just going to go ahead, give them a little bit of torque, and then now the 30 inch-pounds. So for each one of these, this is actually the third time they will have been torqued. 2 times today and then once before when I actually had it mounted on my rifle. And we can see that those are tight. So the scope that I have here is my Bushnell Legend. You will see a review for this eventually, and it will be wearing these rings. So I am going to be quiet now and do this, and then I will cut to the bit where I have it all set up, because this is really boring. So I have finished installing these caps, and I am just going to show you quickly that we have nice free play in there, that it is not binding. We're good there. I have looked underneath it and there are no spaces either on the top of the cap or in the bottom of the saddle, and the scope is in there quite nicely. So what I will do now is set these just a little bit, and we will check our gaps, make sure that we're not touching anywhere before we apply the torque. I may have overdone that one already. Just a little bit. There we go. It is handy to have just a little piece of shim. You can pick this up at most hardware stores. It's going to save you the headache of trying to eyeball. And make sure that you still have a gap, which we have on each one of these. And we're good to go. So I have the torque wrench set to the 18 inch-pounds. I'm going to just snug these up a little bit before I go ahead and torque them. We will check those gaps one more time, make sure nothing's closed up on me. Good, good, good. Ooh, that one got tight. So we'll back that off just a hair. Yeah, that one was a little too tight right there. Yep. And yes. So now we're going to go ahead and torque these up. Just maybe 10 inch-pounds on there before I hit it with the 18. And you want to use the regular torquing pattern every time you do this. There's one. Another thing, important thing, if you were doing this properly, you would have your levels on there to make sure that you are not causing the scope to rotate a few degrees as you're torquing everything down, which can happen. It is going to move a little bit as those rings tighten up. There we go. Everything is torqued. Let's see if we still have our gap. Nope. Nope. No. And almost. Let's try the 2000s. Yes. No. Ooh, tight. And not tight. That one's actually got, that was the one that's almost had enough for 5, so it's probably somewhere in the 3 to 4 range. That one just starts to take it, but then doesn't. That one doesn't hardly even want to start. And that side barely wants to start. So those rings have a little bit of give. I'm not gonna fight with them all day. That's not great. You definitely don't want them touching. That just means that they're applying a certain percentage of that torque to the ring touching the base and not to holding your scope in position, which under heavy recoil can cause the ring to shift, or the scope to shift in the ring. So I'm going to go ahead and try that one more time, and we will see how it does. Let's check our gap. Good. 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 one more time. The one thing you can do is you can just apply a little less torque if you need to. Because the 18 inch-pounds is the maximum that they say that you should put on these rings. So it doesn't mean you have to use that much. But 18 inch-pounds is sort of industry standard. That's what a lot of manufacturers recommend for their scopes, so that you're not damaging the tube. Still good there. A little tight. Still good. Still good. So I'm just going to gently massage these in a little bit and not go straight to the max torque. Now these have been torqued. This, I guess, will be about the third or fourth time that these rings have been torqued. All the threads still feel good. I'm not feeling any galling or grit. We're going to go with the 2 this time and see if it's any better. Nope, still too tight. Nope. Barely wants to start, and then it takes it on that side. I mean, I haven't had any trouble with these rings, but just know that when you get those torqued down, they may be touching. They're not the only rings that I've seen that do that, but they really just need maybe a couple of thousandths taken off the base or the tops just to give you that gap, so that when you're torquing it, you're torquing against the tube and not against the base. But anyway, that's all I have here today. I'll grab one of these out of here just out of curiosity. Let's see what they look like now that they've been torqued multiple times. And we do see just a tiny, I can see it with my naked eye, but I don't know if it'll show on camera. There's just a tiny little bit of silver on there where it's wearing off some of the anodizing and probably picking up just a little bit of the aluminum out of those threads. That's all I have to show you guys today, and I appreciate you if you stuck around this long. Go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoyed what you saw, the subscription if you want to see more content like this, and feel free to leave a comment if you've used these rings or ones that are similar, or maybe have a suggestion on some other rings that I should test. With that said, you guys have a good day, and I will see you next time.